What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're ready to discuss some Dallas Cowboys football action with me. I do this every Tuesday, every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively in the Bleacher Report app. You can follow me in the BR app right down below if that's where you are. I see you, Ninja Turtle. Which one are you? Donatello is the very best. There's no doubt about it. I'm trying to convince my son that this is true. He seems more drawn to Leonardo, which is just breaking my heart. He's 3 years old. He's got a lot of time to figure it out. If you want to follow me for takes like this on social media, I'm on X, Instagram, and Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. Search for RJ Ochoa on Facebook to like my page, for LinkedIn, or on LinkedIn to find my professional resume, and also on Blue Sky if that is more your cup of tea. If you're on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel, I salute you. Thank you so much for participating in everything that I do here. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We have all sorts of stuff coming out all the time, every single week, even here in the off season. So today is Thursday, the third day, according to the great philosopher Joseph Tribbiani, May 29th, 2025. And holy crap, we have some people out here that need to be spoken to. Look, I refuse to believe that we have to tell people how to be a fan of a football team. I never like to do that. If you have followed me for a long time, you know that I do not like to say this is right, and if you don't do it like this, you're wrong. That goes against my personal code of conduct. That's not the creed that I choose to adopt. That's not how I choose to rock. All right. I believe there are lots of ways to approach fandom. You can have an opinion on this, and I can have a different one, or we can go back and forth. And, if we have a back and forth and still disagree, hey, guess what? We still ultimately want the same thing. But today, I'm putting my foot down. Today, we have to make an exception, because today, our pets' heads are falling off, and we have to put an end to the actual negligence happening on the internet. Now, look, I recognize what a statement that is, that there is negligence happening on the internet. I know that complaining about something that somebody said about the Cowboys on the internet is kind of like my dog barking at any given sound outside of my office window. It happens every day. I can't explain it. I can't justify it. I can't convince him not to do it. It's just something I have to accept is going to happen every single day because he's a dog. That being said, the dogs are barking because I cannot believe the day that we have had. Now, I will apologize for the cover image that you're seeing if you are coming to the show live. The spacing between the words "from" and "Brian" did not make it for whatever reason. But if you're on YouTube, the thumbnail has been updated appropriately. But you have seen that today we're talking about commentary that Brian Schottenheimer, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys and a proud Florida Gator, as he reminded us on Thursday. He spoke on Thursday, Brian Schottenheimer did, ahead of the Cowboys OTAs. It's that time of year. You've likely seen headlines popping up across the entire NFL, likely coming to you through the Bleacher Report app. This player's doing this. This coach said that, blah, 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 blah. Well, there is a headline out there that it is my responsibility to correct. All right. Let's take a look. And I'm not trying to pick on one person or one outlet here because I've seen this a bunch of places. What you're looking at here, this is a tweet from Underdog NFL. And I follow them because I find the information to be useful, but I'm on the verge here. I like the Underdog platform. This isn't about them, but they are catching this stray. It's not even a stray. They're catching this direct shot, but I've seen it from Sleeper. I've seen it from all sorts of aggregation. And I aggregate things sometimes. I'm not even against the spirit of aggregation. But what they have tweeted out today on Thursday, head coach Schottenheimer on Dak Prescott, quote, "I think Dak is in the developmental phase, and that sounds crazy for a guy who's played that much. But there are things we're tweaking with Dak." This is the quote that's flying all over the place. This is the one that everybody's reacting to. And this got made into graphics and, with legitimate, Photoshop qualities and things like that. And then you even see Underdog wanted to stir the pot a little bit more here. Added, mind you, Dak is in his 9th year and getting paid $240 million. Look, I'm not trying to freak out and clutch my pearls over something that is inconsequential. Dak Prescott's a big boy. He can handle himself. He can defend himself. He's not necessarily unfamiliar with the fact that people are going to say silly things about him. But ultimately, what is stupid about this isn't even what was said. This isn't even what it is what was said, rather, but it's missing a lot of important context. Let's put this tweet up here. Shout out to my guy, Joe Hoyt of DLLS Sports. Let's look at it this way. This is the full quote. Brian Schottenheimer was talking about the backup quarterbacks on the Cowboys roster, talking about Joe Milton, talking about Will Greer, and he said, I think they all are. With regards to he was asked about the backup quarterbacks being in developmental phases. He was asked about Will Grier coming back to the team. And even though he's coming back, is he in a developmental phase? Blah, blah, blah. Says, I think they all are. I think Dak is in the developmental phase. He's saying, I think Dak, in addition to Joe Milton and to Will Grier, so as not to make them sound like they suck, right? So he's not coming out being like, yeah, Joe and Will, they're terrible. They're still developing. Goodness gracious. No, he's saying, yeah, look, all the guys. I think even Dak is in the developmental phase, and that sounds crazy for a guy that's played that much, but there are things that we're tweaking with Dak. Again, the quote was said, I don't think it's just for Joe. Joe is a guy, Joe Milton, not Joe Hoyt. Joe is a guy that we all know about the talent, but the system he came from in Tennessee, talking about college, created some challenges. The minute these quarterbacks think they figured it all out, it's probably time to think about doing something different, because the way defenses attack this league, it makes it almost impossible to ever relax. I wish that I could relax. I wish that this didn't bother me this much. I wish that we being people like you and me, didn't have to go out and defend Dak Prescott all the time, because we have to, because stuff like this gets said. And it is, look, there is no shortage. If you are looking for a reason to dog on the Cowboys, if you want to crap on this team, get in line. I'll fill your bowl up more than once. All right, you can come back for seconds, for thirds, for fourths. I got a lot here, all right? There's a lot of legitimate, objective material to work with. But if you're going to start making headlines about things that are said without appropriate context, now you're not even dunking on the Cowboys right. Now you're just telling on yourself that all you want to do is, say this team sucks or whatever your ultimate agenda is, get clicks off of it, blah, blah, blah. So look, there is a way, a fair and strategic way to hate on the Cowboys, to hate on Dak Prescott, but this is not it. And look, that's one sector of people, the people who are being misleading and misrepresenting the quote at hand by just cutting off a piece of it. But there's a sector of people that are legitimately upset about this. There's a sector of people that are actually upset and feel like this is representative of Dak not being good or something silly or something crazy. But if you're one of those people, I really, really, really question your kind of judgment on this situation. I think my friend Saad Youssef of The Athletic put it well. Saad noted on Thursday, in my decade plus covering / being around the Cowboys, and Saad's been around a long time, this whole Dak developmental phase thing regarding Brian Schottenheimer's comments today is a top 3 dumbest non-story being manufactured into something that's not. Come on, September, rescue us from this idiocy. I do want to add that I asked him what the other two were, and he noted that this isn't negative, but the whole Dak throwing a cup in the trash can thing during his rookie year, I'm reading Saad's tweet, obviously on the sideline, being blown into what it became, sets the bar for me as number one. And that's how you know Saad is objective. Because if you don't remember this, when Dak was a rookie during the preseason, he threw a Gatorade cup over his shoulder because there was a trash can. He missed the trash can, and he had this look about him, and he got up and he went and he picked up the cup and he put it in the trash can. And to Saad's point, it got turned into this look at what a human Dak is. And I think he's a great human, but look at what a guy he is. He got up and he threw the cup away in the trash can. And to Saad's point, it wasn't as big of a deal in a positive sense as that was made out to be. This isn't even a deal. I can't believe we spent 8 minutes on it, but I feel important because I have a platform. In case you only saw the quote, in case you only saw the aggregated part, in case you only saw the part that was missing context, know that you are being purposefully misled. Do not be misled, my friend. I will bring you where you need to be. You can make whatever decision you want. You can feel however you want. You can think Dak is trash and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But think he's trash for some legitimate reasons, not because of something that really effectively wasn't said in the way that Brian Schottenheimer said it. All right. What else did Brian Schottenheimer say? Well, he obviously spoke about George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb. By the way, on the subject of CeeDee Lamb, let me pull this up. This was super awesome. Shout out to ESPN's Todd Archer because he had this. As mentioned, the Cowboys had their OTAs going on Thursday, and here is the tweet from Todd. Let's put this on your screen. Actually, before we do, Brian Schottenheimer spoke about CeeDee, spoke about George Pickens, spoke about how cool it is to see that relationship growing, developing, etc. And I think that's what we've all, sort of been starving to see. And again, hand up, because I believe we're good. We made it. We survived. All right, we're good. Leonard Leap says, I'm starting to like Shotty more as a head coach as time passes. I agree with you, Leonard Leap. I think that some of that is, if I'm being honest, because I think it's important to be. I think that some of that is just our coping, like maybe 5% of it. But I really believe that, and I think you do too. He's kind of saying and doing all the right things. And to back to the Pickens point, again, in the interest of full context, because I think that you deserve that. I think we all deserve full context any single time that we can have it. I was against the George Pickens trade, and I only continue to repeat that because I don't want to be miscredited. I don't want to tell you my new thoughts on George Pickens and not have you know that I was against it from the beginning. But again, water under the bridge. We're here now. Leonard Leap says Pickens has a good group of leaders surrounding him. To this point, Brian Schottenheimer asked on Thursday about the relationship he's watching unfold between CD and George Pickens. He's talked about, obviously, we knew that that George went to Kyler Murray's softball game in Arizona, that CD Lamb was a part of. Obviously, CD and Kyler played together in Norman. So you've got George Pickens kind of, getting under CD's wings, so to speak. That is very cool to see. I think we all like that. But it's a different thing to see, obviously, in action with the Cowboys at the Star during a Dallas Cowboys practice, even if it is an OTA. And Brian Schottenheimer spoke to this idea and spoke to how cool it is to watch this relationship unfold. And I think that's what we're getting. I think that we all, and I say this like football fans, we have a tendency to, when we think about relationships that people like George Pickens are going to be a part of, we think about the relationship that he's going to have with the quarterback. Think about the relationship that George is going to have with Dak. Well, what page are they on? Do they have chemistry? Or are they lining up? Are they working out? Is George liking Dak? Is Dak liking George? Maybe the most important relationship is the one that George Pickens has with CeeDee Lamb, because that's his running mate, right? Like if they truly are, we talk about Batman and Robin all the time. The Batman and Robin are, or Batman and Batman and Superman, whatever, analogy you want to make. We're not talking about Dak Prescott. We're just talking about the two receivers in this instance. So I loved this tweet. And I know this is like a classic OTAs trope, whatever, football-y thing, but I'm still going to get excited about it. From ESPN's Todd Archer, Cowboys OTA observations from Thursday, CeeDee Lamb was unable to come up with a deep Dak Prescott pass and later dropped to do some push-ups. Seeing CeeDee, stopped, again, football thing, do some push-ups, blah, blah. George Pickens did the push-ups right alongside Lamb. First time I saw that. That's freaking cool, man. That's so sick. Like that, again, super, high school-y kind of thing, right? Like that you think about. But, and I don't say that in any negative way about this, but this is what you want to see. This is when we talk about things like culture and what Brian Schottenheimer is trying to build and the brotherhood that can and will and does exist between the players on the team. It's stuff like this, stuff that may seem cheesy, to the outside, but that if you're in it, if you're in the thick of it all, it's real and it's the whole thing. I mean, this is objectively very cool to see. And again, speaks to the fact that George has kind of found a proper, I hate to say big brother or person to look up to, because I think that George Pickens is talented in his own right. And as we've discussed many different times, can be, a badass dude in his own right. He's not some sidekick. I mean, I think that point is understood, but it is cool that he kind of, views this in a e pluribus unum sort of way, right? That is, I think Latin, right? But from many come one. That's what this is all about. All right. I mean, I bet you didn't think you'd get an e pluribus unum shout out today, but that's why you come here. That's why you come to Bleach Report and the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. I got to say, I've referenced a lot of weird stuff in my day doing this, but never have I referenced e pluribus unum. But so Brian Schottenheimer mentioned that, which was cool. And then we saw that note from Todd Archer. But another thing that Brian Schottenheimer mentioned that I found interesting and that also had some weird reactions from people. This is an article I wrote at bloggingtheboys.com. You see that right there. It's a beautiful name, RJ Ochoa. Brian Schottenheimer mentioned moving several offensive linemen around, including Cooper Beebe. Okay, so let's get to the quote. And this is exactly what he said. This isn't some clickbait, contextless crap that you're going to see, wherever. This is Brian Schottenheimer talking during his press conference on Thursday. You should go watch the whole thing. I mean, I mentioned he bragged about being a Florida Gator. He gave a shout out to the 96 squad that won the Natty under Steve Spurrier. In fact, he said the reason he wears a visor is because of Steve Spurrier. Who would have thought? Anyway, so Brian Schottenheimer says, talking about Tyler Booker, he was asked about Tyler Booker and his development, his growth, how he's looking, blah, blah, blah. He said he's doing great. Again, we're creating competition. He's not taking all of the ones. We're rolling different guys in there. Rob Jones, we're moving Brock, talking about Hoffman around a lot, moving BB around some. Now, we'll get to the BB part in a second, but the first part, we're creating competition. He's not taking all of the ones. I saw some chatter about this on social media as well, and I just feel like I'm putting out all these fires around here. And look, I am, in the last, I would say 18 months, not the most positive person when it comes to the Cowboys. And I'm not saying that I like being negative, but there's been a lot to be negative about and very little to be positive over. That being said, I'll get to your question in a moment, Leonard Leap, about starting running back. But there were so many people freaking out that Tyler Booker is not taking all the reps with the ones. There were so many people saying, and I'm not mocking anybody, but the general sentiment was like, "What? What do you mean he's not taking all the reps with the ones? Why not? Why not? It's a failure. He's a bust. I can't believe that this is happening, dude. My friend, let's chill out a second. All right, it's actually still May. It's not even June, right? I know that that's kind of cheating because it's May 29th, right? That being said, this is good. This is a good. The reality is, like, you might have to play Rob Jones at some point. You might have to move Brock Hoffman. You might have to move Cooper Beebe. Again, I wanted to get to the Beebe thing in a second, but it's okay that Tyler Booker's not getting all the reps with the ones, a month after being drafted by the team, right? Like that's okay. That's understandable. We don't have to freak out about it. I don't think that is really worth, kind of panicking over in any single way relative to Tyler Booker. Now, relative to Cooper Beebe, I am not panicking, but I do find this to be interesting at the very least. So let's pull the quote up again, and then we're going to look at the depth chart, and we'll answer Leonard's question about running back. Here's the quote. Talking about, again, this was about Tyler Booker. He's doing great. Again, we're creating competition. He's not taking other ones. We're rolling different guys in there. Rob Jones, we're moving Brock around a lot. And the way he said it is important, which is why I would encourage you to go actually watch the press conference. But he said, moving Beebe around some. Like, he kind of said it as a different thought. He was sort of like moving Brock around a lot, moving Beebe around some. And that being said, why? Right? Like, I don't mean to sound panicky, but why? Why are you moving Cooper Beebe around? Where's he going to play? If he's going to play guard, okay, then where's Tyler Booker playing? Is he going to play left guard? Then where's Tyler Smith playing? If he's going to play left tackle, then where's Tyler Guyton playing? Is he going to play, like, your mind starts to wonder, your mind starts to race. So let's take a look at the Dallas Cowboys depth chart. Shout out to our friends at Our Lads. I use this tool all the time. If you watch these shows, you know that to be true. Here's the Cowboys offense as is currently constructed, and that's good enough. All right. So, offensive line, left to right at the moment, the way we view it on paper: Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, Terrence Steele. Okay, that makes sense. That's chalk. That's pretty logical. What if Cooper Beebe isn't in there, right? What's going on, right? like what? If I told you Cooper Beebe is starting somewhere that isn't center, where is that for you? Where? Let me put the positions over there. If Cooper Beebe is starting somewhere that isn't center, where is it? Is it at right guard? Because again, then where's Tyler Booker playing? Probably not at right guard because they just spent the first round pick on him. Is it at left guard? Okay, well, maybe are you going to kick Tyler Smith out? We've had that conversation a million times, right? Like, kick Tyler Smith, he should play left tackle, he's amazing in 2022, blah, blah. We've had that conversation. But let's just entertain the conversation for a moment here, because I think there's a world where hypothetically, right? And that's what this time of year is for, is to experiment, as we just noted with regards to Booker specifically. There's a world where your offensive line from left to right here, instead of Tyler Guyton, this is Tyler Smith. And right here, instead of Tyler Smith, this is Cooper Beebe. And right here, let's call it Brock Hoffman at playing center. And right here, it's Tyler Booker. And right here, it's Tyler Guyton, right? Like, maybe Terrence Steele is the one who gets the bump out of here, because I don't think there's any doubt. And we're not throwing shade here, but if I had you rank all 5 current starting offensive linemen, and I said, which one do you think is the weakest? Which one would you like to replace? Which one would you move out? It would be Terrence Steele. There's no doubt about it, right? I think Tyler Smith is the best. Everybody's pretty excited about Tyler Booker. Everybody's fairly excited about Cooper Beebe. Everybody's willing to give Tyler Guyton a little bit more benefit of the doubt because it's only been 1 year, blah, blah, blah. He's playing left tackle. It's very difficult. But Terrence Steele is the one, like, he's Andy and Buzz is here, right? Like, he is Andy. And he is Woody and Buzz is here. And you're like, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready for my new toy. Let's bring him in. Blah, blah, blah. I don't think I would do that. I mean, I really wouldn't, because at that point, you're talking about moving literally everybody, right? Like, at that point, you're talking about everybody having a new position. Although Tyler Smith has played left tackle before, he would be out there. Cooper Beebe would be at guard. You would then have Brock Hoffman at center. I suppose he's done it before. Tyler Booker is new just by being, a recent draft pick. And then you would have Tyler Guyton playing on the right side, which he did in college, but not in the NFL, obviously. Leonard Leap says, unfortunately, I don't think there's any Tylers at offensive line in the next few drafts, because the Tyler Infinity Gauntlet would be incredible. It really would. I don't think that the Cowboys are going to be able to pull off, what would this be, a 4th Tyler? But man, it sure would be something if they could. I found it interesting. Again, not in a let's panic or freak out or run any direction with this kind of thing. But Brian Schottenheimer brought that up of his own accord. He brought it up on his own that the Cowboys were moving. Again, it makes sense to rotate Tyler Booker in and out for him to be going with the ones, going with the twos. I can process that in my brain. I can understand that. If I have to answer the question why, I can very easily do that. But the question as to moving Cooper Beebe around, right? If you're moving him anywhere other than center, the why that I ask now is a little bit more difficult to answer. I would say it's actually challenging to answer. Not challenging, well, everything's bad, but it is less easy to answer, which is what makes it fascinating that he brought it up on Thursday. Back to Leonard's question, who do we think, or the question was predictions about starting running back. I think it's Javonte Williams' job to lose right now. I look, I'm going to prepare you right now, and not just Leonard Lee, but I'm going to prepare everybody. Jalen Blue is going to be a name that we're all going to talk about. He's going to have a moment at training camp. He's going to break off like a 72-yard run, and we're going to freak out. I will be with you. I will be among the people who freak out. I will scream and clap and jump. It will be awesome. And then at some point, Jaden Blue will get a jersey number that is cooler than 34. As cool as 34 is, he will get something that makes more sense for him because he's faster than 34. That being said, I just don't think, I mean, I would love to be proven wrong in this capacity, but I don't think, I trust that he will be used. I think that that's fair to say, but I don't think he's going to be this team's primary running back. I simply don't. I know what he said about being rookie of the year. I commend him for that. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the Cowboys, beyond the fact that I don't know that Jaden can do that in the NFL, that remains to be seen. I hope that he can, and I hope to eat those words. Beyond that sort of question or doubt, exists also the fact that it seems like the Cowboys want to do this by way of a committee. It seems the Cowboys want to have a group of people involved. And I think that's how everyone can thrive. Everyone can shine. Schottenheimer has talked about this in the past. He's talked about how he's been a part of offenses that had one main superstar focal point from a running perspective, a running back perspective, but that he's also been a part of lots of committees, right? Like you think about, the Jets teams. In fact, let's look at this for a second here. Let's go look at the 2010, let's say 2010 New York Jets. Heading there now as I pull this up. We're going to the Jets. We're going to years. And here we are, 2010. All right, here we go. Let's put this on your screen. This is the 2010 New York Jets. We'll look at in fact, let's go 2009 first. 2009, as you can see, offensive coordinator right there is our guy, Brian Schottenheimer. So let's go to the leading rushers on the 2009 New York Jets from a rushing yard standpoint. You got Thomas Jones, brother of Julius Jones, and Sean Green, right? And you also had Leon Washington carve out 300 yards. Brad Smith, this is before LaDainian Tomlinson got there, obviously. But you have two dudes with 500 yards. All right, Thomas Jones kind of leading the way, and Sean Green, who was younger at that point in his career. Now let's go to 2010, because this is one of the better kind of case studies, I think, to look at in terms of his career as a play caller. This is it. I think this is what Brian Schottenheimer wants. LaDainian, this is 2010, the 2010 New York Jets that lost the AFC Championship game. Good times. Pittsburgh Steelers beat them. The Pittsburgh Steelers that went on to lose to Mike McCarthy. Time is a flat circle, right? But LaDainian Tomlinson finishes with 914 yards. Sean Green finishes with 766 yards. Look at the amount of attempts. You have two running backs with over 180 carries. That's like, I don't think that, I don't think that we're going to be talking about Joe McKnight, if you don't remember, was kind of a fast, twitchy sort of player. I think that this is going to be what Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders kind of look like. Maybe this version of Sean Green is replaced by Jaden Blue, but I just don't think that the Cowboys are going to have one dude who I think that having one guy have 200 carries is maybe asking for a lot. I think that he maybe wants a more equitable balance. I think that's definitely possible based on kind of not only his history, but and what was successful for him, right? These were successful Jets teams that he was the offensive coordinator for. But also, if we can discern this, we can read into this based on who's on the roster at the moment, right? They don't have that obvious lead back. So it is a weird question or a weird answer to say there isn't going to be a kind of traditional starting running back. But they've kind of gotten away from that. And you could argue the NFL has before it went back last year and blah, 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 and Saquon and Derrick Henry. I agree with you, but I just don't think the Cowboys. I think that this is maybe the best way to put it is you don't want a piece of this backfield in fantasy football because it's just going to be a mess. It's going to be one guy one week, one guy another week. This week, this guy has the touchdown. This week, this guy has the 100 yards. This week, this guy has a receiving touchdown. And I think the Cowboys want to cycle them in and work with them and have everybody kind of take a piece of the cake. I do not think that they want to have one dude because if they did, they would have that dude on their team. And they simply do not at this point in time. So I know that doesn't technically answer the question, but I feel like it does. But I feel like it's representative of who this team is ultimately going to be and the vision that Brian Schottenheimer wants to have. In fact, on the subject of things he said, I think the last kind of thing that's important to touch on, he was asked about what the team's offensive identity would be, which kind of encompasses this. Well, obviously encompasses everything. But he said, well, look, I've got some core beliefs, right, that I believe in, things that I really believe and know to be true. He said, but I'm going to listen to everybody. He said, I'm going to listen to our players. He said, ultimately, they're the ones, who are charged with executing these things. And I'm going to consult their feedback. I'm going to listen to Clayton Adams. He even talked about listening to Matt Eberflus, right? He talked about how this whole thing is a project where everything can and should and will ideally work in perfect unison and perfect harmony. But that being said, he said, I still am the one who calls the shots. I'm paraphrasing now. I'm not leaving out context. Believe me, I wouldn't do that after the opening diatribe. But I mean, this is look, it's a weird thing. We've talked about this many times in the last few months because he hasn't called plays as the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. And when he did with the Seahawks, or when he was working with the Seahawks, it was a weird time, and it was the let Russ cook thing and the kind of opposing ideologies, if you will, blah, blah, blah. So the best kind of sample size, the best kind of data set to look at, to kind of glean what we think we could or might or may or might possibly see from him as the play caller of the Cowboys, just as the play caller, not even as the head coach, is those Jets teams. And I think they came so close. And I think it's easy to say, look, I was a part of this team that did this, and man, we were so close. We were right there. We were knocking on the door. We almost did it. I think it's easy to say we just need to do that a little bit better, right? Again, in a general philosophical sort of way. So I think that we're going to get that kind of thing, and that makes identifying who's going to be the starting running back for the Cowboys a bit of a tricky proposition, because I don't think that Brian Schottenheimer wants to have one specific guy be that dude. And if he did, they wouldn't have signed Javonte Williams. They wouldn't have signed Miles Sanders, or they would have after signing someone a bit more threatening, someone a bit more legitimate, someone who could carry the load, someone who could have 250 carries, someone who could be the primary workhorse back. But you could argue that formula, that methodology, that pathway hasn't been successful for the Cowboys in recent history. It's been a minute since they have had one dude who you can rely on. And obviously we know that dude was Zeke, but when was the last year that you felt like Zeke was that guy, right? Was that dude to kind of be able to withstand everything? I would offer that it was probably, the wheels kind of started to fall off a little bit around 2020-ish. So, I mean, it's been about half a decade since the Cowboys have had like the classic, starting running back who you just kind of can set your watch by is going to be awesome and is going to be good for 100 yards, or going to be good for 2 touchdowns, or going to be good for the conversion on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2 even. And so you kind of have to mix it up. And we've seen different examples of different success options and pathways in the league. And I mentioned the Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henrys of the last year, but we've also seen committees work and committees that Brian Schottenheimer has been a part of. And so that's going to be kind of fun. And it's going to be kind of fun to see and hear and digest what his offensive identity is that he talked about, in the way that he mentioned on Thursday. But if you have one takeaway from today, it's to always get the full context. You should always get the full context. Do not let someone give you a piece of something and run and walk with it. And I hope that if you did not have the full context, that you came here, you watched this video, you said, man, I'm glad, I'm thankful that I got it, because I reacted, or I was going to react, but now I'm not going to, because RJ gave me the full context. And if you want the full context on everything, you can hit me up on social media. I'm on X, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. Search for RJ Ochoa on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Blue Sky. I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys all the time there. I'm talking about golf. I'm talking about whatever. talking about the meats I'm smoking. I don't know what I'm gonna do this weekend. I keep saying I'm gonna do a pulled pork, and I haven't done one in a minute. So I think I'm finally gonna pull the trigger. But thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. Again, a happy belated Memorial Day. If you didn't hear it from me, an eternal thank you to those of you who have served our great country, and those of you who are friends and family, people who have. Your sacrifice is something that we can never repay. I'll see you back again on Tuesday for another one of these conversations. I'm looking forward to it. But for now, my friends, I bid you all adieu. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. You eat something delicious, and we'll see you next time.